And it's finally over. Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak completed their final stint in a string of Tory leadership hustings at Wembley in London tonight.
In 2019, listeners to my LBC show heard one Boris Johnson say, "There will be no new taxes, read my lips." Can you say tonight, read my lips, no new taxes on your administration, please?
Yes, no new taxes.
No new taxes.
That was a good moment. But, of course, the race for number 10 could have been so very different if just 9 more Tory MPs had sided with Penny Mordaunt instead of Truss during the Westminster ballot. Brexit-backing Penny, who was struck by a string of harsh criticisms over the course of the campaign, finished a close third in the race, thanks to a previously glittering political career that's seen her serve as the MP for Portsmouth North since 2010, become the first female Defence Secretary in 2019, and land her current Trade Minister job last year. And while Boris Johnson has just around 120 hours left before he leaves Downing Street for good, we could easily have been looking at Royal Navy reservist Penny starting her own premiership next week. But she narrowly suffered defeat and gracefully bowed out of the competition, now throwing her weight behind Bookie's favourite Liz Truss. And I'm delighted to say Penny joins me in the studio. So, Penny, look, I'll talk about Truss and the campaign and what's next in just a moment. But I actually wanted to start with the personal tonight, because it must be quite hard for you to get your head around how close you came to be Prime Minister, because all of the polling showed that if you had made it into the final 2, you were going to thrash Rishi Sunak. So have you accepted it? Are you there yet? Such a small number of MPs. If you'd convinced them, you could have been looking at entering number 10 next week.
I have come to terms with the fact that I wasn't in the final 2, of course. And, you know, you look at the campaign you run, you do your best, but ultimately this is about getting a Prime Minister for the country. And I could have just stayed neutral and let people get on with it. But I think this is too important to contest. It's always important, but at this moment,
yes,
for the country,
indeed. And I will
vital.
come to that in just a moment. But in terms of your campaign, do you have any regrets given how close it was? Is there anything you wish you'd done differently?
I think this is a waste of energy to have those regrets. I don't regret that I ran. I hope I helped shape the contest, and I think it's important that we try and shape the future and we focus on the future, and that's why I've declared for Liz.
Do you think it was unfair that you were branded the woke candidate? Because that is what seemed to spark the change in fortune, specifically around the fact that in 2018, in Parliament, you said a trans man is a man and a trans woman is a woman. Is that fair? And do you stand by that comment now?
This is politics. Your opponents are going to say all sorts of things about you. I can only control my own campaign. I didn't diss the other candidates in my campaign, which I joke, is why I came third.
They dissed you.
Well, they may have, but that's their business. Yeah. And at the end of this, we've got to...
Are you woke?
Look,
is that fair?
Dan, let me address this. I was the only candidate in that contest that has won a Labour working class seat and held it and has a decent majority in that seat now. And I refer you to their judgment, those people that elected me. They don't vote for people that are nonsense, head in the clouds individuals. I'm very practical. I wish we'd talked a lot more about the NHS than certain social issues in the campaign, which are not really the concerns of most people in this country. And that's why I've won a Labour seat. So, yeah, there was a lot of unfair things that went on, but there's no point in dwelling on that. We've got to move on. We've got to look ahead. On
the trans issue specifically, though, do you accept that when it comes to those really hot-button, difficult issues like women's sport, like safe spaces for females, toilets, changing rooms, hospital wards, that actually a trans woman isn't a woman? So, look, let's address this issue, right? And I've said this in the campaign, I've said it before the campaign. I am biologically a woman. I know the difference between a man and a woman. I can't believe we've had these debates during this contest. There's been far too much bollocks in every sense of the word discussed, quite frankly.
I understand this because, as you alluded to, I train against men. I understand the biological differences, which is why when I held the equalities brief, I raised the issue about sport years ago, and why I completely have always said that we need to look at the science in this, we need to listen to the sporting bodies, and they need to have the confidence to make the right decisions. But, and this is why everyone gets their knickers in a twist, because there are some people who were born, for example, men, who legally are recognised as women. And when we're writing law, that is really a very important factor. Trans women aren't biological women like me, but they deserve respect, they deserve kindness, and I will always take that approach in my politics.
And it is interesting you talk about some of the issues that have been discussed during this campaign, because one of the reasons people like my great friend at the Daily Telegraph, Alison Pearson, backed your campaign right at the beginning, is that she knew you had the best hope of beating Keir Starmer at a general election. Do you worry that at times your party has maybe gone too far down the Conservative rabbit hole during this campaign and hasn't thought about the big picture? Because we are facing, and I talk about it every night, a very real threat of a coalition from hell, Labour, the SNP, the Lib Dems, and the Greens. That is a realistic possibility.
Yeah, and look, one of the strengths of the Conservative Party, and we're the most successful political party in this country's history, is because we're a broad church and because we have tended to hold the centre ground. And the centre ground moves around a bit in politics, but we've appealed to the centre of where the country is at any given moment. I don't think that's changed, and I think the challenge for the new leader is to build that team. It's to be able not just to reach across the Conservative Party and bring it together, but to reach across the country and to be relevant to people. And I think Liz can do that.
Yeah, so why Liz over Rishi?
So, look, I like both of them immensely. I have a lot of respect for them. They're good Conservatives. They love their country. And I wish them well in this campaign and beyond. But I do think we're at a real inflection point for our country right now. And if we've got all of this COVID backlog to deal with in the NHS, a huge amount we have to do on education to enable children and young people to thrive, plus all of the ambition that the British people had in 2016 and 2019 when they gave us that huge majority to really maximise the opportunities from Brexit and take this country forward. That's a huge list of things in someone's in tray. And Liz is right. Business as usual is not going to do that. And I think that she has a plan of how to deliver on that, how to get us out of the situation we're in, but also deliver on those Brexit opportunities. But also I think she offers a bit of hope as well, because no government, no matter how good it is, can do anything on its own. We've got to inspire people, we've got to win back trust, and we've got to ensure that we're listening and we're being motivated by their priorities.
And my God, we need that, because the challenges in the country are immense at the moment. We know that. I've been speaking earlier in the show tonight about lawless Britain and this policy exchange report that suggests there needs to be a massive shake-up of the police. Do you think the police have become too woke? I mean, do you approve of them taking the knee and dancing the Macarena?
Look, I want to take a slightly controversial view on this, because I spend a lot of time with my police, what they do during the day, but also riding shotgun with them on patrol at night. And I can tell you, the police in my area, the thing that takes up their time and pulls them away from responding to that burglary and all of those things, it's going to deal with someone that's just called a suicide in, because there's not a mental health crisis team. It's about finding a 6-year-old kid roaming the streets at night because, you know, the social care plan isn't in place for that individual. If we want to really help the police do their job better, those are the things we need to concentrate on that are eating up their time. I don't agree with every policing plan that's ever been written. In fact, in the last few days, I've criticised my own, policing plan, not in my own area, but in a neighbouring constabulary, because they did something that I thought was wrong. They prevented a local newspaper going to press and being delivered because it wasn't viewed as an essential service.
Because of these eco-terrorists.
Because of the eco-terrorists. So, I've made a complaint about that, and I want that reviewed, and I know Priti Patel feels the same way about that. So I don't agree with every single thing that's in every single policing plan. But we just got to recognise these people do an incredibly difficult job in very difficult circumstances. And I think if we're going to support them properly, we need to look at those other services that they are picking up the loose ends from.
They seem to pick a lot of the wrong battles at the moment, because your constituency is actually covered by the Hampshire Police.
Yeah.
And recently they've been in the headlines because they arrested a guy, a veteran, because he had posted on social media a tweet that Lawrence Fox had posted. And this was it going on, actually. Liz Truss, tonight, you're obviously at the hustings. She was very clear. She said the police should be focusing on solving violent crime, not policing people's tweets. Do you agree, and do you think this was police overreach?
Look, I think that Liz Truss is right on this. And what you have is you end up with lots of members of the public using up police time by, if they've got a row with a neighbour, the row goes on social media, and that eats up police time. But again, all of these sorts of issues are issues that should be being dealt with by other local services. It's about that community cohesion, or it's someone with a mental health issue that should be being dealt with and supported by those services. So, yeah, Liz is absolutely right on that front. But I would just say, if we're going to criticise the police, let's get this in perspective. They're not doing this all the time, or dancing the Macarena, every weekend.
There are brilliant police.
They are doing an amazing job, and
police in this country,
we should say that. We should say that
Absolutely.
occasionally.
Look, just finally, I want to talk about your book, because during the campaign, it caused a lot of criticism and a lot of controversy. And one of the things, I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but one of the things that people were very concerned about were your links to Bill Gates, because, of course, he is someone who has been very controversial over the past couple of years. His work with the World Economic Forum has worried a lot of people over the COVID pandemic. Do you just want to explain, because I don't think you've ever been asked about it before, what your relationship with Bill Gates is, and do you think he has too much of an influence on British politicians?
So I don't think he has too much of an influence on British politicians. I think he's only come to Parliament a few times in the whole time that I've been there. I got to know him through international development, and he made some investments in some of our universities to help pest control and crop yields and all sorts of things to help our farmers, but also farmers overseas as well. So that's how I know him. And he has invested a huge amount in all kinds of charitable ventures around the world. I think he's a good philanthropist. I know he's not everyone's cup of tea, but I think by and large the world is a better place for having had Bill Gates in it.
OK. And do you know what job you're going to get yet?
No, that's just nobody does. Reshuffles are crazy.
Liz going to win?
I think that she will do it, and I think that she's captured the imagination of not just our electorate for this contest, but the country, and the commitments she's made tonight, I think, are very welcome.
And I think the key point you made earlier is we need hope.
We do.
And that is what she is hopefully going to deliver if she's
she'll be a great Prime Minister.
Penny Mordaunt, Trade Minister and former Tory leadership candidate, thank you so much.